Hey, what's up you guys? How's it going? Welcome back to the channel. This is Act D Productions here, and I am here for another Top 5 video. For this Top 5 video, I'll be bringing you guys some bands that I think are a little overhated. Now, I've covered overrated bands, underrated bands. So for this list video, this will be a list of bands that I think get a little too much hate than they deserve. Now, some of these bands I don't think are the greatest bands in the world, and I would give people that. But to solely hate on them and think that they're some of the worst bands in rock and metal is pretty ridiculous. But there is one honorable mention I would like to make, and this honorable mention originally made the list, but I decided to cut them out because I think they are more respected, and that is the band Demon Hunter. Now, for the most part, people just dislike this band just solely for the fact that they're a Christian metal band. I mean, really, that's a dumb reason to not like any band, I think. And it's pretty sad because there's people that are more open to like satanic metal than Christian metal, because, you know, so much for equality, right? Now, I will admit that there's a lot of Christian metal bands out there that are just garbage, but that's not to say that there's no such thing as an exception, and I think Demon Hunter is one of those exceptions. And the reason I did cut Demon Hunter from the list was because, well, I do think for the most part, when people do listen to them, they usually do have good things to say about them. But yeah, that's why I cut them from the list. But now let's get into the actual list. This list will not be in any particular order, so let's get started. So first up, we got Linkin Park. Now, I originally didn't have Linkin Park on the list because I do think these guys are rather overrated. Obviously, you know, I don't know if they're a band anymore. Obviously, we all know what happened with Chester. But yeah, I'm not really sure if they're a band anymore, if they're still continuing. I really don't keep up with them that much. But, you know, this band gets a little too much hate, I think. And I think it's because, you know, the fact that they're associated with nu metal, and they're more like rock than they are metal, which I can agree with. Especially when it comes to their Minutes to Midnight album. Like, that's more of a rock album compared to their first couple of releases. But I mean, the debate on whether or not like they're rock or metal is not a good reason to hate the band, you know. I will agree that they're not the greatest band in the world, but, you know, I kind of like Linkin Park. You know, there's nothing really to hate about them. I mean, sure, you know, there's been Living Things and One More Light that are very iffy records, but they put out some good albums. I mean, now, one of the things that does keep me from listening to Linkin Park is, of course, the rapping. As you guys know, I'm not a fan of rap at all. But I think Mike Shinoda is pretty talented when it comes to rapping, I guess. Even though I don't listen to rap, usually when it comes to many genres, I tend to have good judgment, and, you know, I can pretty much establish, like, who I think is, you know, talented at what they do. And I do think Mike Shinoda is talented. So yeah, Linkin Park, definitely a band that gets too much hate than they deserve. So next band up, we got Slipknot. Now, similar story. I think a lot of nu metal just gets a lot of hate in general. A lot of people just don't like Slipknot because, you know, I think because they're in the mainstream, and some people just think that they lack replay value or something. I don't know. I can understand where they're coming from with that. I don't listen to Slipknot all that much, but, you know, I do like Slipknot. I think they're a good band. And yeah, I don't know why these guys get a lot of hate. I think it's because, like, I think really the only people that hate Slipknot are the metal elitists, like the guys that mostly listen to, like, death metal and black metal and say, oh, you know, you're pretty much weak if you would rather listen to Slipknot than death metal and black metal. Well, personally, I would rather listen to Slipknot than those subgenres. Does that make me weak? Or a false metalhead? Come at me. But yeah, Slipknot, definitely a band that gets a little too much hate, I think. And I think that's all there is to it to them. Next band up, we got Tool. Oh boy. I know there's a lot of people that really don't like this band. And I know a common complaint I've heard with Tool is that they're a boring band to listen to. Um, which, you know, I can understand, you know, if you're someone who's like, I guess, more exposed to like more energetic music. But maybe you really have to ask yourself, you know, with Tool, maybe you have to really ask yourself this. Is it really a band that's like you have to listen to like and headbang? Obviously, maybe other than a few songs are pretty headbanging worthy, but you really have to take that into some consideration. Like, is this really a band that you're really going into with the best mindset? Like, are you listening to something that was like in the metalcore subgenre and then going from Tool? Yeah, that's going to be a drastic change. So you really do have to go into them with an open mind and a specific mindset. And that's kind of what I did when I first checked out Tool. I became a Tool fan last year, and you know what? I went into to them with some appreciation, and I'm glad to say that it worked out very well for me, and I'm a Tool fan now. And I do look forward to their new upcoming album coming out in the summer, which, guys, I know, I should have made a video on that sooner. I'll probably get around to do a separate video on that at some point, though. But yeah, Tool, just excellent band. They're, you know, you can't go wrong with them, in my opinion. I think they've never released a bad album. And, you know, this is one of those bands that you either love or you hate. But unfortunately, there's those that just hate the band. It's ridiculous. All right. So next up we got All That Remains. Yeah, All That Remains is a band that gets quite a bit of hate, to be honest with you guys. I guess you could say that they get hate because of their association with metalcore, but I don't really think it's all that. I think it's because of the material that they've been releasing, like The Order of Things and Madness, which I would agree are their weakest material. But you know, you can't really just dismiss the band because of those albums. Like, I know some people just think, well, because they released those albums, there's no way that they can redeem their career. Look what they did with Victim of the New Disease. You wouldn't call that redeeming their career? Pretty ridiculous. I mean, All That Remains is definitely a band that gets way too much hate, I think. And you know what? I do like All That Remains a lot. They're one of my favorite metalcore bands. And you know, it's really a shame what happened with Ollie, who was the guitar player for All That Remains. And you know, I still do hope this band continues. I believe that they got a new guitar player from another metalcore band. So I think they are continuing, which is good, because I do think that's what Ollie would want. Now, obviously, I've never known Ollie, but that's just kind of what I would think. But yeah, All That Remains, definitely a band that gets way too much hate, and it's really crazy that they get a lot of hate since they're one of the earlier metalcore bands. But you know, I like All That Remains a lot, and you know, I'm willing to defend them from, you know, the hate, because I know that they get a lot of hate. It's really ridiculous. Alright, so the last band up on the list, we got Metallica. Yes, Metallica is a band that does get a lot of hate. Now, you could put the Big Four into this as well, you know, especially Megadeth as well. You could say Metallica and Megadeth, but I think Metallica definitely gets a lot more hate. Obviously, for being the most successful metal band, the biggest metal band in the world. You know, while I would agree they don't deserve to be the biggest metal band, to hate on them for that, that's just really stupid. I mean, yeah, I do like Metallica, but I don't think they deserve to be the biggest metal band. I do think they are rather overrated, but to fully hate on them for that is ridiculous. I mean, how about you actually put that aside and actually listen to the music itself, you know, and just enjoy it for what it is, you know. And I know that Metallica also gets hate for having the most crossover appeal, because obviously Metallica is probably the band that attracts the most people that mostly listen to other genres of music. I know Metallica has attracted, you know, people that even listen to pop and country due to their mainstream success and appeal. And heck, there's even people that have mistaken Metallica as a rock band opposed to a metal band. But point being, there's a lot of, especially the elitist metalheads, like I said, the ones that mostly listen to black metal and death metal. Those are mainly the crowds that diss on Metallica, which is just plain out dumb. And yeah, Metallica, I do like this band. They're a great band, and I think they get way too much hate. So there you go, guys. That is a list of bands that I think are just too overhated. Let me know what you guys think. What are some bands do you think are too overhated? Please let me know down in the comments. So with that said, thanks so much for watching. Have a nice day, and take care.